What up, everybody? This is Ovalle Inspiración. It's a beautiful Saturday, but a beautiful rainy Saturday for those that are in South Florida. It's going to be a rainy weekend, it actually feels good because I love hearing the thunders and the sound of the rain, especially last night. It felt so good. But today, where I am bringing somebody on my channel. I'm excited to meet her. Well, I met her already, but I'm excited for you guys to meet her and know more of who she is and what she does. But in the meantime, she comes from a Puerto Rican family. Her parents migrated from Puerto Rico over to the States. But she also pretty much grew up in Stamford, Connecticut, which is awesome because we're both from the North. I'm from Jersey, she's from Connecticut. But she currently resides now in South Florida. She has 8 years of experience in the accounting industry as an external auditor and financial accounting consultant. She's also a financial coach, and we'll be talking about that. She's an entrepreneur. She's everything money. So I am going to bring her on now. And what's up, my sister? How's it going?
What's up? Hi, Amanda. Thank you so much for welcoming me into your space and onto your platform. It's going well, but rainy. But I also like thunderstorms, so that's funny. We have that in common.
Right. That's awesome. So I met you about 3 weeks ago at an event. I forgot what it's called. I hope Sally's not listening to this. But
The Women's Wealth Circle. The Women's Wealth Circle.
yes, there you go, the Women's Wealth Circle, and it was a beautiful, nice venue. It did feel a little weird because I'm not usually around so many women. I was like one of the few men there, but I went there to support my friend Sally and just support what they're doing as a whole, and highlighting the women in business that I want to be in business. And I know you're part of that world as well,
Yeah.
which we'll be talking about. So I'm glad you're here. Thank you for taking the time.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So let's just start off. So can you tell us a little bit about your childhood background, family and the finances and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so I'll quickly just introduce myself for all those of you who are maybe meeting me for the first time and watching this. Thank you for sharing of your time and being here. But my name is Aitza. I'm a certified public accountant. I specialize in financial statements and financial reporting. And as Emmanuel mentioned, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm the founder of Strategies&Tea. I'm also an Airbnb super host. I used to do Turo, so all things money. I'm your girl, and I'm really excited to share more about how I got here. And so for my childhood around finances, I didn't have a lot of education when it came to, financial management. All I knew is that we had it and sometimes we didn't, right? A really big upbringing on, everyone supporting each other. My dad owned a construction company. My mom worked in a factory. And so both of them were working parents. It was very much hustle and bustle. But it was also very being self-conscious of, don't have the light on, we don't need it. Like, we're not going to turn on the heat right now. We're going to wait until it gets a little colder, go grab a blanket. And so I really grew up with this scarcity mindset around finances. There was also a situation where my family was, taken advantage of, unfortunately, by a lawyer, and our home almost went into foreclosure. So it created a lot of mistrust around people and around money. And so as I kind of grew up in my life, I saw that kind of play out a bit. No fault to my family, right? They did the best with what they had and what they knew. And as I got older, I was able to realize that, especially when it came to credit and all of these tools that we now have that our parents didn't have, right? So how can they teach us on something that they didn't know? So that was really my upbringing.
Awesome. And I don't know how I missed not mentioning your name. I know you said Aitza, but I'm gonna say your first full name because I love the sound of it. It's very Caribbean-ish, like
Yes.
Dominican, Rican. Aitzarelis Negron. It sounds so nice.
Yes, Aitza Negron.
I love it, but I know for the sake of everybody calls you Aitza, so we're gonna stick with that. Even though here and there, on a personal level, I'll be like, "What's up, Aitza? ¿Cómo está? Tranquila."
Yes. Google me. I'm
Awesome.
like the only one too.
Really? Wow.
I need
Look
to
at that.
trademark my name.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Cool. So, um, tell us. You do have a website, and I'm gonna highlight it. But it's called Strategies and Tea.
Yeah.
What is the website about? And what does the TEA stand for?
Yeah, so my business is called Strategies&Tea. Just some background is really a play on word, especially in the Black and Brown community. We tend to spill the tea a lot, and it's usually around some type of gossip, un pochinche. And so I really wanted to take something that would resonate with our communities and spin it and say, let's spill the tea on things that are going to uplift our communities, are going to pour into our communities, especially financially, around financial literacy. So that's kind of how the strategies and T kicked off. And the T stands for tenacity, education, and accountability, which I believe are the three pillars that got me through my journey. And I really want to help people kind of awaken to them. We are not really going to navigate our lives in a straight line. And so being a tenacious person allows us to have that flexibility that it's okay to pivot. It's okay to make some changes as long as our vision, like we have that vision in mind, we can keep moving towards it, but we just have to make adjustments along the way. Education, right? I really think it's important to invest in ourselves through learning. Even myself as a coach, I'm still investing in my own coaches and in my own mentorship because I want my cup to be full so I can fill other people's cups and be a resource to them. And lastly, accountability, really taking the term and changing it. So we hear people say a lot, I want someone to hold me accountable. I need a trainer to hold me accountable. But what we're really asking is for a consequence, right? Because we can only hold ourselves accountable. So really kind of instilling that we are truly in control, of course, with God first, but we are really in control of ourselves and what we choose to do with that. So.
Awesome, awesome. So based on your website, and I pretty much looked through it. I read everything. Uh, I love it. I love the aesthetic of it. It's also simple, and it goes with your personality, I guess, right? So as far as the services, like what stuff do you bring to the table for clients? People want to know more about strategies and tea. Like, how can I get involved? What do I do? Is there private, sessions or the community? Like, I want to know more about financial literacy.
Yeah, so there's quite a few things on my website, and you'll be seeing the website grow with me in a few months. But a few different things that I do. So I started with financial coaching. In 2020, I experienced a layoff during the pandemic, and thankfully, I had already started working on my financial situation and building out a financial runway. But as I started doing free resume reviews at that time to help others, I realized that financial literacy was really a need in our communities and bringing to close that gap. So I have a 12-week coaching program called Ember, which is really for that personal finance aspect. So if you're someone who maybe you're making high 5 figures, low 6 figures, but you're not really seeing the end result of that, you're not seeing that you're building wealth, maybe you feel a bit intimidated and hesitant to even speak about money, this is definitely the program for you to kind of get your financial foundation off the ground and really educate you and walk you through that, especially using zero-based budgeting, which is a method that I use in that course. And then I also have started building a wealth builder online community space. So this is definitely for those of you, maybe you're not ready for coaching just yet. You still want something, but you need people that you can talk to money for. This is what the wealth building community is for. I started my financial journey by just moving past my fear. I was very embarrassed about my financial situation, especially being an accountant. But once I started speaking to, one particular person, and she really gave me her strategies, I started to see that sometimes our strategies are not working for us, and we just need to kind of bounce ideas around. So that's really that community space. And now in 2024, I am launching business coaching. So 86% of my clients end up realizing that they don't want to be at their full-time job forever, or they're okay with it, but they want something more for themselves, some more autonomy around how they control their financial situation and manage that. So I am launching business coaching now. So if you're an entrepreneur and maybe you're working hard, you're feeling overworked, but you're not seeing the results in the bank. When you look at your bank account, you're like, I don't see why I'm working so hard. This is definitely a program that you want to be in, this coaching program with me to help set up your financial foundations. And, the Ember and my business coaching go hand in hand, because how you deal with your personal finances will bleed into your business. So yeah, and I also do bookkeeping. So I also offer some bookkeeping services at a limited capacity. So if you're an entrepreneur and you need a bit of coaching and a bit of bookkeeping, let's talk.
Awesome, awesome. And that's very important that you mentioned, because when it comes to finance, personal finance, a lot of people think, oh, I just need to make more money. Yes, that can help, depending where you're at financially or depending where you live or whatnot. But unfortunately, in the days that we're living and with high inflation, a lot of it today is not really about making more money. It's about managing your money, right? Because in reality, it's you can make a lot of money all you want and still be broke, and it's because of behavior. So,
Yeah.
me personally, I hate math. I do not like math with a passion. I never did good in math. the moment I had a math test in high school or when algebra came out, I thought my life was over. Like I wanted to like shrink. I just didn't. I like math, but over
Yeah.
the years, right, getting into my financial journey, paying off debt, I realized, wait a second, I don't need to be an expert in money. I just need to know basic math and change my behavior and my mindset. So in
Yeah.
reality, it's just 20% head knowledge of math that you need. The rest is
Mhm.
80% behavior, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what people need to understand. You know, it's not about having a lot of money because a lot of money doesn't mean anything. People think, oh, a lot of money, I'm going to spend more money. But wait,
More
what
money,
about
more problems.
what about investing that extra money or paying extra
Mhm.
debt on that money instead of buying the PS5, which is nothing wrong with PS5, but isn't necessary, right? So there's a lot, you know, to talk about in that area. So that I like all that stuff that you brought up. So
Yeah.
you did mention entrepreneur, and I did mention it to you, mention in the beginning. So how do you get into that life? Because you know we talk about the 9 to 5, and to be honest, you know, people there are people who does not want to work a 9 to 5, and that's okay. But then there are people who it feels like they want to work a 9 to 5 and they love what they do, and that's okay too. I mean, not everybody can be a full blown business owner because who's gonna work then, right? Who's gonna be under them and whatnot? So there has to be a balance on both. But I do get the pull from a lot of people like, man, I just don't want to work. I need more time for family, this and that. How did you go into that life of entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I think you really hit the nail on the head about not everyone's designed to be an entrepreneur, and that's okay. I strongly believe that we're all meant to serve in our own specific way and reach people in our own specific way. And for those of you that are watching, it's like, I don't really want to be an entrepreneur. I want to work my job. That's great. Like, you can still work your 9 to 5, but still be strategic on how you're going to navigate your career. And that's a conversation that I've had with clients before. I've had clients, they didn't want to go pursue the entrepreneur life, but I help them see, how to show up to those review meetings with your boss, how to have these conversations and come prepared so you can negotiate a raise, so you can negotiate a promotion, and or you can realize that maybe this is not the employer. Maybe you've kind of ran your course with this
Mhm.
specific employer and it's time to move on. But I think it all starts with your mindset. So regardless of the path you choose, you need to realize that sometimes we set these limiting beliefs on ourselves, imposter syndrome, where we have the skills, but we don't see it. Maybe someone's telling you, hey, like, I really see you doing this, or hey, you're managing a team extremely well, and you're just kind of confused. It could be this imposter syndrome that's making you think that you can't, when in reality you can.
Yeah.
So that's why I start all my coaching with mindset work. It is a
Mhm.
foundation for sure. Because once we start unlocking what we believe we can and cannot do, we start to see some growth and some change there. And so on the entrepreneur end, for those of you who want to quit your job flat out, because on the internet, they talk a lot about just quit your job, full-time entrepreneur. Listen, if you're trying to become an entrepreneur to work less, that's not going to happen. It could happen eventually, but at the beginning, there is a hustle and a grind that you have to have, and it takes time. Me personally, I work full time and I run my business. And how I started was, I started with Airbnb, and it was really for my parents, right? I looked as
Mhm.
I was thinking about, having a financial runway. This was back in 2016. Um, I started thinking, well, and especially in our minority communities, a lot of us, like, we're not putting our parents in a home, right? They'll haunt us forever. Like, we are supposed to take care of our parents. So we started with Airbnb, or I brought this idea to my parents, and at first there was a lot of resistance there, right? They're like, "Oh, strangers in our home," um,
Yeah.
but the whole concept of it was, hey, like, we can have this additional source of income and set it aside for your retirement. So that's kind
Mhm.
of how I started getting my feet wet with, I can actually have my job and manage this as well. Then the pandemic happened. Of course, travel was very low, and I realized, okay, I couldn't just have the Airbnb piece.
Mhm.
The strategies and T idea, I actually thought about it in high school.
Wow.
Just to drive back to some background there. When I was in high school, I didn't really think that I had a future after high school. There wasn't money for college or those things. But my guidance counselor, Esperanza Diaz, wherever you are, shout you out. She pulled me aside and talked to me about scholarships and
Mhm.
explained that I could go to college and I could pursue these things. Like, my behavior in high school completely changed. My whole life took a 180. I ended up getting a full scholarship. And at that moment, I realized, like, what are the other resources and tools that people don't have access to? And now, I started Strategies and Tea, which is really giving people that access. So that's really my entrepreneurial life and journey. And it takes a lot of time management. It starts with the mindset at first. As you become an entrepreneur, you're still going to be hit with those limiting beliefs. As you need to pivot, as you need to make adjustments.
Mhm.
But once you start learning the systems, and that's why hiring mentors, investing in people that can guide you, right? We've been through it, so we can kind of help you skip a few steps to help you get through it a little faster and a little less painful.
Right.
But it's all about time management. You can really do both. Another thing I want to mention, if you're in that space of doing both, is sometimes, we say, oh, my business needs to bring me the exact same amount that my job brings me before I can go full-time entrepreneur. And if that's you, if you're watching this, you're like, that's me.
Mm.
I want you to ask yourself, how much more can your business bring if you were able to show up in full? And this is advice I got from someone who recently, well, not in August actually of last year, 2023, made the switch. And it's more of, what's your financial runway? Do you have enough savings to sustain you? Whatever that number looks like for you. Like maybe that number is 6 months,
Yeah.
or maybe the number is, I need a year's worth of savings first, right? And then you could take that leap. So it doesn't necessarily have to be equal, but it's whatever brings you comfort. And I know
Right.
that was like very long-winded. So
You're good. You're good. That's good. That's good stuff. That's good stuff. So continue on talking about entrepreneur and having your own job or leaving. I mean, own business, leaving your job so you can do full time.
mhm.
What are the pros and cons? Because when it comes to entrepreneurship, especially the last few years, mostly because of COVID, and now it's a trend. Everybody wants to be a business owner. Everybody wants to leave their job, be a full time, and then we have all these TikTok financial gurus all over the place
Yeah.
sharing wild information that's not accurate or whatever the case may be. Um,
Ooh, shots fired.
right? It is a trend.
Yeah.
For some people it works out, but for a lot of people it doesn't.
Mhm.
Because the reason why I mention is because I work with middle school and high school students, and sometimes I ask, who wants to be a business owner or who wants to do real estate, this and that. But they're young, they're not gonna understand. They don't know, because when they think about real estate, they think it's just another 9 to 5 and they get paid. No, I tell them no, it doesn't work like that. When you do real estate, you still have to have a job, right? Hopefully your real estate kicks off at some point where you can live off of that, but you don't just quit your job to start your business, because how you're going to pay for your supplies, how all that kind of stuff. So what are some pros and cons with being an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And um, you can only fit, and I'm thinking about the kids in high school and like all the TikToks and the Instagram reels, is you can only fit but so much information in 30 to 90 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And now I think reels have to be even faster, right? They're like, oh, like now you have to make 10-second reels, and it has to be quick. Read the caption. You don't even say anything. You just show up, read the caption. And so with that, like as you're watching these videos, just remember, like, these are the highlights, right? There's very few people that are showing the behind the scenes. And I think more people actually are starting to do that, which is great, because you're selling a dream, but you're not necessarily selling a reality. And I
Mm-hmm.
think it's important for people to understand that there's only so much information you could put into those short form videos that you're receiving. And also some people are really, maybe they're in it for whatever they're in it for, and not necessarily being ethical about it. So vet
Mm-hmm.
the people out that you're following, that you're listening to, because everything that, remember, mindset, right? So everything that we're listening to, that we're receiving, like, it's playing a role into how you see yourself. It's playing a role into how you're going to see your business. It's probably pulling you to move into a business maybe you're not even passionate about, right? Like, you're like, oh, well, this person's doing so well, making all this money, so I'm going to go here. But I invite you to consider what's beyond that, right? That vision, beyond the money, right? What's really the reason why you want to be an entrepreneur? Because that's what's going to keep you moving forward. Because money comes and goes. And I guess that's one of the pros and the cons of entrepreneurship. Is one of the pros is, of course, income is limitless. So if you hustle more, if you really start speaking to your audience more, if you're a product-based business, you start being more detailed about your products, you can really increase your income however many knows, right? It's really about the value that people are placing on your product or service.
Right.
But on the other end of that, there's ebbs and flows in business. There's going to be seasons where money's moving in very slow, and you need to be willing and able to prepare for that. So that means you need to be very good on your financial management. That's why I'm here to support these entrepreneurs, is making sure that you have the background financial systems set up, right? It's not about necessarily growing, in my opinion, about growing so fast, because you might grow so fast and not be able to maintain it, and now you're forgetting to bill people.
Right.
Now you're forgetting that people didn't pay you. You don't even have a system in place to follow up, like, hey, your bill's past due, or you didn't pay me. You start missing out on money in that way. And
Right.
then when you start losing there, you start building some anxiety, some stress. Maybe you start questioning, like, I should go back to work, or why did I
Mhm.
even start this? Like, there's been nights where I'm like, why can't I just work my job and not want to do anything else, right? But that's because I haven't been called to do that,
Yeah.
and I've been called to serve in a different way. So definitely, mindset around who you're receiving information from. That could be a pro or a con, right?
Mhm.
You can increase your income to tremendous amounts. That's a pro, but there's also those seasons where there could be some slowdowns. We're seeing right now what's going on with TikTok, right? And a lot of those influencers on that platform are very concerned because
Mhm.
that was like their main bread and butter. So what are they going to do now? Um, so that could be a con, right? There's things that happen outside of our control. So if you're someone who's starting your side hustle or business and you are only on Instagram, like get an email list, right? Get an email list that belongs to you, because Instagram and Facebook, they could be literally gone tomorrow. Like we're seeing what's going on with TikTok, but your email is something that you own. Another con, I think, and for those who are thinking about jumping ship, is when you work your job, depending on your benefits package, like you're getting health insurance, you're
Right.
getting PTO time, you're getting
Mhm.
all of these things as part of your compensation. When you're an entrepreneur, you really are responsible for managing those things, or you're responsible for paying for health insurance or figuring out how you're going to pay for health insurance. You might also need other insurances for your business, depending on what type of business it is. Um, your vacation time, like, do you have the right team in place? Is your job business so dependent on you that you cannot leave, right? How are you building out your team? How are you creating space so that you can take a vacation and it doesn't burn you out over time? And so I think those are the few like major ones that I would say off the cuff for some pros and cons. It's like it's a lot on you. Like when you work for someone, you're getting your paycheck, they determine your value, they're paying you a rate, you accepted it, you have your benefits. When you're an entrepreneur, you think about these things all on your own, or with a team, or leveraging mentors. But it's really on you to organize and to think through those things. So that's why I said, if you're
Yep.
trying to be an entrepreneur to not work a lot of hours, at the front end, there's going to be some hours that you have to put in to get yourself off the ground.
Right. Right. Yeah. I love it. Yeah.
Sorry,
Go-
one other point I want to mention is, think about the investment that you need to make to start your business. I mentioned a
Mhm.
few costs, but like you need to register your business. That comes at a cost. Maybe you're going to develop a website. You eventually going to need a team member. So as you're thinking about your business, also think about how much money do I need on the front end to kick my business off. So before your business is making you money, you might have to put in from your own money to kick your
Mhm.
business off the ground and to do it in the right way.
Right. Right. Good stuff. Good stuff. And you know what? I love. I watch a lot of Shark Tank. I just think it's very interesting and whatnot. And the majority of those people that come in, they still working full time. Are
Yeah.
working very hard to get their business rolling, and sometimes they're a one-man show, right?
Mhm.
Which is why they go on Shark Tank to ask for help, right? And I love what you said earlier about these TikTok influencers. They sell the dream but not the reality. Right? And me personally, I would appreciate more when people share their stories of where they got to,
Yeah.
that they have this amount of money and they debt free, or they have a big house now. Okay, but okay, so tell us what you went through, right, to get there. But no, a lot of people don't show that part. And I think for me, I mean, I'm not gonna say, I'm not judging their hearts or why they do it or not. That's on them. But
Yeah.
I would appreciate more to make awesome videos talking about what you needed to do to get there, right?
Yeah.
For example, my wife and I, in the past during COVID, we paid off two cars in 2.5 years that was worth $30,000. The average person that pays a car in 5 to 6 years, I mean, the average person in America that pays a car off is 5 to 6 years.
Hmm.
One car. My wife and I, we paid two cars, $30,000 in total in 2.5 years. Like, who does that? Now, I did make a video about it, and for those, please feel free to search it up, subscribe, look at it on my free journey. I do mention, yes, I did get a raise during that time. She did get a raise. I did get stimulus checks. I was home for 3 months because the offices were closed. However, even though that did help, that does not mean I was not working hard, because for the past 3, 4 years, I was working my butt off, and still to this day, waking up at 3 in the morning, two
Hmm.
thirty in the morning to do Uber for 5 hours and then go to my main job. And that's miles on my car maintenance more often than most drivers, gas money, all of that kind of stuff. So it's not just, oh yeah, I paid off $30,000 in 2.5 years. What? How, you make a lot of money? No, that's not what it is. It's about 20% knowledge and 80% behavior. I worked hard, waking
Yeah.
up early in the morning, sacrificing so I can, So people are not sharing that part. They're only sharing where they got to. And I think it will be people will appreciate more, and people will appreciate it more, and they'll be more motivated when they share that stuff. So yeah,
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
stuff.
I think it's happening. I think slowly entrepreneurs are starting to do more behind the scenes, more real life
Mhm.
content. There, and as someone who's creating content, there's a balance too. Like, how much personal do I want to share? Because I feel like if you do that, I think it could also become consuming, right? Where now everyone's expecting your personal life, and your personal life is like on display at all times.
Mhm.
Um, so hopefully that trend continues, and people continue to share a little bit more of the behind the scenes and the nitty gritty of what it takes.
Right. It's like watching a movie. Oh, that movie was
Yeah.
great. Acting was great, but I can only imagine how many times they had to say cut, 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 before getting the.
And there's like times, like when I first started my business, I didn't have a client for 6 months. Okay. I was here, I was putting content. By then I had actually invested, before I even started, I invested 2000 in a coach for social media. Like, how do I show up on social media, all the things. She's really big on going live, but for me, it's like, okay, I gotta go live. I have to look nice every time. Um, and I had 6 months, like not one client. I called my friend, Gala, shout out to Gala. And she's actually a nurse and self-taught trader. So you could do it, right? Like, and she still works as well. But anyway, I called her crying. I was like, I don't know why I started this business. Nobody cares about their money, blah, 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 blah. And 2 days later, I got my first client who paid in full 4 figures, right? So it's like, it's going to happen, but it's going to take time. But in the meantime, guess what? 6 months, I was paying for hosting a website. I had to get a website made. Like, I tried to do it myself. Took a lot of time. So it's either you're going to pay or you're going to take a lot of your time, which is, your time is like a valuable resource. But then after that, I started to see movement again last year I took a pause because I decided, okay, how can I take my coaching and start as private one-on-one and really make it more streamlined for my people. So I invested in another coach to really learn about systems and started to create the online community, started to create a curriculum online where after our coaching sessions, now my clients can go and log in and they can see more videos, they can have more access to resources. But what did that mean? That mean at that time I wasn't really pushing my business because I was in the back end, but then I had to manage the money that I had made, right? So that I can sustain my business in those months that I wasn't calling in new clients, because I was making the decision to not call in clients so that I could create a better experience for my clients. And then I went ahead and did that. So this is what I mean. Like, there's going to be seasons of your business. Maybe it's within your own control, but you have to make some changes. So you need to be prepared financially, and really manage the resource that you've been given at that time so that you can learn how to manage more money as more resources come later on.
Right. Good stuff. Good stuff. So, you and I are from, or at least our parents, strictly from the Caribbeans, right?
Yeah.
Dominican, Puerto Rican, and many Caribbeans or people of color, we were never taught financial literacy. We were
Yeah.
just taught, go get a job and pay your bills, right, and grow up.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't have that education at all. My parents, they come from the 1940s, straight from the Dominican Republic, no high school education. However, we lived like they were making six figures only because they were super responsible. I lived in a house all my life. I got to travel to many states because of them, not because they were making so much money. It's because they
Yeah.
were so responsible. They weren't just spending money, recklessly. But I never had that financial education until years ago. And
Yeah.
I wish I would have known earlier in my life because I would have been better off now. But here I am. This is where God has me, right? And I'm here to learn and I'll teach others. So I want you to tell our listeners, even if they are not going to be the next Aitza or the
Mhm.
next, Robert Kiyosaki or the next business owner or whatever, why is it still important to have some education on finances?
So first of all, thank you for putting me and Robert Kiyosaki in the same category. Yeah, goals. Go read his book, y'all. No, but I think one thing I would say is, again, don't feel bad or don't feel guilty. Give yourselves and your family grace. as you start on this journey, because it's true, financial literacy education now, we're starting to see it more mandated in schools. But again, it's like, well, what's really the curriculum that's being mandated? But as a country, our financial literacy requirement, I think back a few years, I think only 25% of high schools even had a financial literacy requirement. There are organizations that are moving to change that number and increase it, but the access is not there. If you live in a low income community, the access is really not there. Like, I think the percentage went from like 18% down to 5%, depending on just the neighborhood you grew up in. So give yourself some grace. And again, there's so many books out there. Like, read I Will Teach You to Be Rich. Read The Richest Man in Babylon. Like, if you DM me, I don't know if you could pop up my name in my Instagram, but send me a DM. I'll share a reel with you that I made with all the, some really good financial books that you can read. So start to really invest in yourself, and notice sometimes maybe it's not a financial investment, but maybe it's an investment of your time, because that's going to help you close, open some new doors and close some other behaviors that you might have had. So to continue on that, it's like, once we have the knowledge, we can't really unlearn it. Bad habits and behaviors we can unlearn, but if we start to replace them with new habits and new behaviors and new information, we could start to be renewed and start to move a little bit differently. And that's really important as you start to navigate your financial journey, because you need to figure out how are you going to manage what you have right now, right? It's not about, having the millions, because if you can't manage what you have right now in front of you, those behaviors are just going to continue as your wealth continues to grow. And so you can start to understand, how am I currently spending? A lot of us are stuck in a cycle of spend, right? Maybe you're someone who you're sitting here like, no, I have a lot of debt, right? Because there's also a debt cycle. But there's some of you who maybe are a bit more affluent, maybe you have a bit more access to financial resources. So you don't really think or see that you're in debt, but you still are stuck in this cycle of spend. So you're not growing your wealth. You're not seeing things grow. So as you start to learn about financial education, for example, some of my clients, when I talk about investing, it's at the end of my course. Because a lot of them come with a high debt, and they want to know about investing. Because again, social media, they're seeing the investors and the traders, and like, I want to invest. But if you're investing in the market, that brings an average return of 8%. I like to say 8% to be conservative. Some people go with 10%, but 8%, and your credit card interest is 23%. You're going to be, you can invest all you want, but that 23% that it's costing you to carry this debt is what you're earning in the market is never going to outbeat that, right? Because the percentage is different. Like, what you're bringing in is not what you're putting out. Same thing if you're thinking about, as you'll learn about how to strategically bank, right? Some of you are watching and you have your money sitting in a savings account. Maybe it's not even in a savings account, but let's say you do have a savings account at a brick and mortar bank. So these are brick and mortar banks that you drive down the street and you see them all the time, right? That interest rate is very low. Very low, probably sometimes even less than 1% that you're earning on that savings account. But just by changing your savings to a high yield savings account, right? So maybe you're like not ready to invest, you don't feel very comfortable. You can just open a different type of savings account that's earning you over 4% right now. And that could be a big difference. I have someone that was following me on Instagram for a while and silently listening to what I was sharing. We have some comments. Ally Bank. Yes, I use Ally Bank, but do your research, right? Bankrate.com is a good site to do that on. And this is not, well, I'm not sponsored by Ally Bank, so I definitely want to put that out there. But if you move your money to a high yield savings account, you can see a difference. And there was someone who came to me after a few months of just following me on Instagram and told me, I've been hearing you talk a lot about high yield savings account, and I decided to make the switch, right? So they made the change on their own, right? I wasn't a client of mine, not someone I was coaching. And they said that they went from earning around $12 a year to making $50 a month in their savings account in interest, right? Yeah. That's a big difference. So when you start to invest in your financial education and financial literacy, you can see that there are small things and steps that you can take that can grow big wealth. You'll learn about why, having your savings in a different bank account is beneficial for you, because it's so easy for us to transfer money between accounts when it's sitting in the same bank. When you have it in a different bank, it's going to take 1 to 3 days. And you're going to have to think about, okay, do I really need this thing? Because it's going to take me 3 days to get this money. So it's about setting boundaries for yourself. So learning about, setting healthy boundaries for yourself around money. And you can also start to share that information on to others, right? It's not just about us. And I think that's something I want to push with my community is we work better in collaboration. We work better when we work together as community. We see different cultures that move as a community together. and they build wealth together. So my goal is for, us in the Caribbean, Black and brown communities, that we can also start to move together in community to uplift ourselves and each other. So we can start to share that information. When you start learning about money, you'll feel more comfortable speaking about money. Like, I don't know about you, but I grew up in it. Some of my friends grew up too, where like you don't talk about money. Like money stays in the house. You don't talk about it with people. But I think it comes from a place of fear. It comes from a place of scarcity, and maybe sometimes think like I might be wrong, right? But if you're learning and you're investing in that knowledge, like you can start to gain the information, and then you can start to share that with people. And how good will it feel to move from a place of generosity and like move from a place of confidence, where you feel comfortable having those conversations, and you know that not only are you impacting your life, but you're also impacting the lives of other people.
Awesome. Yeah, that's really, really
I
good.
know how
Really
to grow your wealth, right? Then you can start making strategic moves that, like debt. I don't know. I guess we can wait for your other questions on that, but
You got it. Yeah, and it's important because, like I said, even if you're not trying to be the next Aitza or, you know, take it a top notch or whatever, you live in America. We live in this world. Nothing is free, right? We're going to be dealing with getting cars, getting a house, a
yeah,
rent, credit cards, or whatever. That means money. We need to learn the ins and outs. At least start off with the basic. Take a basic course on financial literacy, and see
yeah,
what it can take you. Because especially if you want kids, we want to get married, all this thing, like this money is going to be involved in everything that we do. So we shouldn't shy
yeah,
away from it. And we live in a world where social media world, there's a mass information of financial literacy, which at the same time, there's a lot of misinformation.
yes,
To be wise, but we cannot say, I don't know. The information's out there. You just need to seek the right people. And me personally, even though, and I'm not saying this because you're on right now live with me, but I know you have a heart to teach people. You're not just one of those people, oh, I just want to get my money, this and that. No, yes, you do want to get paid, right? But you do have a heart to help other people,
yeah,
for whatever different reason that you have, and that's what we need, people who can teach because they have a heart of a teacher and not just having a heart for money, right? So I praise
yeah,
God for someone like you. So you did mention, I was going to save this question for the next one. You did mention about credit cards and the interest rate. So I want to talk about this for a second. I'm going to share a little bit of my view, and it's okay if you disagree. We can learn from each other and whatnot.
yeah.
So I'm sure you're aware, but if not, last year, for the first time in history of America, credit card debt has reached $1 trillion. And I know that there's always a controversy, of people teaching don't get credit cards, don't use credit cards versus the others, no, use it, learn, beat the system, use it for, leverage it, whatever the case may be. There's always fights on both sides,
Yeah.
right? Me personally, I have one, but I hate credit cards. Although I am responsible, but
Yeah.
I hate credit cards. I believe, and you can, feel free to disagree. I believe that credit card companies in the back end, I think they're really there to trap people. That's just
Mhm.
me. I don't believe they're really there to help.
Mhm.
Although there has to be some level of helping because, or else nobody would get credit cards at all. All right. But my question to you is, with the $1 trillion in debt that we have reached for the first time in history, and we're in 2024 with all the financial knowledge that we have,
Mhm.
should people still get credit cards? Because more debt keeps accruing. What
Yeah.
do you?
So I understand your viewpoint. Me personally, I think that I don't think credit cards are evil or
Mhm,
bad, but I
mhm,
think misusing them is, right. So you mentioned, leveraging debt. So a lot of people they think about leveraging their debt, and they think, I'm just going to use an example that people could connect with is, let's say, credit card points,
mhm,
right? Oh, I'm going to use these points. I'm going to pay on this vacation. But how much money did you have to spend to get those points so that
mhm,
you can go on that vacation, right? And if you spent that money for things that, helped you develop a new skill or helped you learn financial literacy, and you used that, spent that strategically, I can see that point. But if you were overspending on things you didn't really need because you just wanted the points, really start to weigh that, because then now you got a lot of stuff in your house. The clutter is making you crazy. It's like driving you crazy. So like all these things impact us, and I think that we can leverage our debt in a smart way, especially if you're thinking about shifting. And this is something I'll share a personal story with me. Is I had a lot of debt, right? I was stuck in a cycle of debt. I paid off a lot of debt, and then I got a
mhm.
bunch of new debt because I didn't get to the root cause of my cycle of spending. Like, how was I spending my money and why was I spending it? For me, it was from, getting my first, real job after college. And I didn't learn about money management. All I would think about was, "Oh, all these people that I met in school, like they went to all these great places growing up. I never went anywhere. Well, I went to Puerto Rico, but like I didn't travel outside the country or do any of these things until college. And so I spent my money like trying to make up for something that I felt like I was lacking. And it got caught in this cycle. And when we look at how people sometimes use debt, it's like we're trying to again live the dream. We're trying to see what the other people are doing and try to compare our lives. Like, how do we level up? Or I want to look like I'm doing good, but does it, like, what's more important to you? Is like, do you want to look like you're doing good, or do you want to feel good about how you're doing?
Right.
Ooh, bar. And just remind. I know. I was like, oh, I like that. I'm gonna use that. And so really think about it that way, and especially if you're thinking about taking that pivot into entrepreneurship, whether it's having a side hustle or whether you're looking to build out a become a full-time entrepreneur, is you need to look at that differently, right? OPM, other people's money. As an entrepreneur, you're thinking, how can I use this, other people's money or this other, and I don't mean like your revenue, but leveraging funding or other resources to grow your business so you can build more income. And so that's going to be a big mindset shift. And as I started my entrepreneur journey, I was hesitant, right? I was like, well, I don't want to make this investment in my business because I just, in my mind, I was still thinking about the girl that was with all this debt. Like, I just got out of this debt, and I had to realize, no, I need to unlock some new skills so that I can grow my business farther. I needed to hire an assistant, right? Because I have a job. I needed to hire an assistant. So I had to realize this investment that I'm going to make is going to allow me to hire someone that's going to help me. So while I'm at work, someone is there in the background doing some things on my behalf and moving my business forward. One book that I would recommend is Clockwork, by the way, by Mike Michalowicz. So in this book, he brings up a question. It says, would you rather make $50 an hour or $5? So I'm gonna ask you the question. Would you rather make $50 an hour or $5? Oh, you're close, I think.
For this question, but now
I can't really hear you.
I rather have $50 an hour.
Okay, you'd rather have $50. But what if, because you're not doing what you need to do for your business, you're not making that investment, now you're making $0 an hour? Would you rather make the $5 than $0?
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, these are the questions we need to ask ourselves, because maybe paying someone or making that financial investment is going to allow you to make $5 at least instead of 0, and you pay them the other 45. Oh, Caleb's, oh, that's cute. Hi, Caleb. Hello. So yeah, so again, my view is that debt is not evil, but the misuse of it is. It could be harmful to you. And so what I do challenge people in my personal finance space is not to use the credit card, because it's not really about the credit card itself, but it's about removing that addiction and that need to lean on your credit card, right? It shouldn't be something that you need to lean on, that you're like, I need it. Like, how am I going to live without it, right? And so I challenge people to kind of take that pause and that break, more for their mindset work, more for that internal message that we tell ourselves. And then usually I get comments from my clients like, I didn't realize, like, now I don't even think about my credit card first, like they didn't realize how attached they were to this object. And you mentioned like these credit card companies are here to make money. It's true. Like, these businesses are here to make money. Like, they hope, and I'm not like putting words in their mouth, but like, their profit model, their revenue model is that you're not going to pay your credit cards on time. So then they could charge you interest.
Yeah.
So they're going to charge you interest on that credit. So like, that's how they're bringing in revenue. Even overdraft fees at the bank, right? Like, you overdraft, your bank is like, oh, here's $35 charge. Like, that's a stream of revenue for them. That's a line item, right? Like, they're putting that in their revenue. So you can leverage it, but pay it off in full. Don't get stuck in the trap of the cycle of overspending. And that's really what's going to help you like leverage them in a healthy way and get ahead. But maybe for you, it might mean, hey, I'm going to take a break, and don't start with a week. Like, start like this 1 week, I'm not going to use my credit card. Like, start small. And really start taking those breaks and realize it's about the mindset piece, like breaking away from that need to lean on the credit card.
Right. Good stuff. And I always tell people, like, well, and you know this, right? Don't go over 30%, right? Because if you go over the 30%, that can affect the credit score.
Mhm.
Or obviously make your payments on time or pay the full, right? Or I tell people use it like if it's a debit card, meaning, right, if you're gonna pay your monthly bills or certain monthly bills with it, that's because you have money on the debit card to pay it back, right?
Mhm.
It's not your money. It's not
Yeah,
free money. People,
right. It's not free money.
they're lending it to you,
Yeah,
right? So there is, again, it's all about behavior. Unfortunately, it's just
yeah.
a lot of people don't have that mindset. That's why they keep getting into that debt. There's a lot of layers to it. But you
And
are,
that's a cycle within itself, right? So you mentioned the credit score. When your credit score goes down, you might still get money. You might
yeah,
still get loans. You might still get credit cards, but the interest rate goes up. So it's going
yeah,
to cost you more money compared to someone who has a high credit score. They could take out the same amount of credit with that you did with the same bank, but it's going to cost them less to borrow that money
right.
because they have been, the banks are determining that they're more credit worthy. There's
Mhm.
less of a risk that we're not going to get paid back. There's less of a risk that we're not going to get our money back. So
Mhm.
they're getting lower interest. So just think about that too. Like as you're making these moves, is how is this impacting me holistically, right? It's not just about the money in the bank. Like how is this impacting maybe even my family? Like, okay, now
Mhm.
I have to work more hours. And so I have, I hear a baby. So I have to work more hours. So now I can't spend as much time with my child.
Yeah.
Now I spend, now I can't go to the gym. I can't work out. And because of that, now I'm getting sick. So now I'm going
Mhm.
to the doctor more, right? So it becomes this cycle. And I think
Yeah.
if we start looking at our lives as the wheel of a car,
Yeah.
right? If you have a flat tire in any area, the car is not going to move where it's going to be a bumpy road.
Exactly.
So really think about like money is just one piece of it, but again, like come back to that vision. Like
Right.
it's beyond the money. It's what that freedom is going to allow you to do.
Mhm. Right. And then watch out for those Christmas credit cards in Macy's and JP's.
Well, yeah, I mean,
They tell
people.
you, oh, you want to apply for this creddet card, you got 40% off the first purchase, but they're not telling you that the interest rate is like 29%.
Yeah, and also like exactly think about the cards that you are using, right? Like if you're just getting a card that works only at the one store, now you
Yeah,
have more credit cards like in your space. There's more room for you to overspend. Like
yeah,
if you're gonna get a card, if you're choosing like get a card that's gonna work for you in different places. If you travel a lot, get a card that's not gonna charge you a fee for international, spending. Like, really think about it again holistically. Think about it bigger. And usually those store credit cards I feel tend to have higher interest rates. So just keep that in mind.
hmm, yeah. Awesome, awesome. So you did also mention about investing. So I'm just gonna throw it out there. Crypto, yay or nay?
Okay, so I used to be a nay on crypto, but it was again, this is like me being real here, y'all. We talk about the background. It was a nay because I didn't understand it. I was like, I don't know what's going on
Hmm.
in this crypto space. But I actually want to shout out my friend Fareed. He has a YouTube platform as well called DAP Central, DAPP Central. And he actually like we met up at FinCon last year. Well, we met for the first time at FinCon last year, and he's really into the crypto space. And he kind of walked me through. I reached out and again like reached out and said, "Hey, can you help me understand this?" And I think
Hmm.
that's sometimes that's hard for us to say like, "Hey, I need help." Um, so like, don't be afraid to ask the question. We're not designed to know everything. We're designed to work in collaboration with others who know the thing. So he really helped me, well, watch a few videos and he kind of walked me through the concept behind crypto. And now it made a lot of sense. Like, and now I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, like I need to get into this space. And it was the fear of not knowing that unknown. We talked a bit about, why learning about financial literacy and investing in that education is important is because now that I added a piece of information that unlocked a fear that I had. Um, I'm going to move forward and say, okay, now I'm going to start moving into crypto. And yeah,
Hmm.
it at first it was a nay, but now that I understand it, it's a yay. And so just remember, like fear is not of God. So fear is just paralyzing us. It's stopping us from moving forward. But we
Right.
have access to unlock those things and like push it behind us and continue to move forward. So that was my journey with crypto.
Awesome, awesome. Cool,
Yeah.
cool. Let's talk about budgeting. I love budgeting. I don't know about you, but I love it. It saved my life before we got married. Well, right when we got into marriage, that's when I actually started to budget and whatnot, and it saved my life because now I know where my money is going.
Mhm. Yeah.
Right? Most people don't budget for many different reasons, and I have a whole video, like an hour-long video of the reasons why people don't budget. It would be
Yeah.
dope at one point you can make a video talking about it as well because we need more people talking about this and maybe have more of your input as well. But
Yeah.
what are the purpose tips on budgeting for you?
Yeah. So, I mean, I love budgeting too. Budgeting also saved my life because I was in a cycle of spend, and some of us like we're like, "Ooh, budget," right? And it really does help shine a light if you do it right to set up your budget, right? So, you have to understand how are you currently spending your money. That's going to take some time. Like you have to
Mhm.
actually go through. I mean, I make my clients go through it, but like, because I went through it too. Like, I actually went through and categorized every single thing. Like, how am I really spending my money? Because it's easy for you to just go out and, make a budget where you're saying, okay, well, I get this much money every month. This is how much I think my bills are. I think I spend this much money on groceries. But if you don't have the actual facts, it's going to be hard for you to keep up with that budget.
Right.
So like go through it and start to analyze how you've been spending, and then you can make a plan, right? We need to shine a light on things so that we can move forward and make a plan for them. I like to use zero-based budgeting. I'm not sure which method you use, but
Use that one too.
okay. So zero-based budgeting, for those of you who are watching and are new to that term, is basically when you're giving all of your dollars a job to do. So think about, and I use this example a lot because I'm a very visual person, but think about water leak, right? That's in the house. You usually don't know there's a water leak until you start to see some water.
Mm.
And by the time you open the wall, now the water's gushing out because it was back there the whole time. Now you might have some mold in there. Like there's things that were happening in the unseen space that you didn't know until you start to see water come out. And money is the same way, right?
Mhm.
Usually we don't realize there's a problem until the problem is big. And now we're trying to patch up all these holes and all these things. So zero-based budgeting says every dollar that I have is not just going to go to bills and savings and debt, but it's also going to go, at least for me, I like to incorporate joy,
Mhm.
because people think about budget and we think like I have to give things up. But I think, and the way I like to reframe it, is that it's more about a realignment. So
Mhm.
what's your vision? What are your top goals around your money? Then look at how you've been spending and assess it. Like, are the top three spending categories that I have, do they align with the vision that I have? And if not, okay, some changes need to be made.
Yeah.
Also, taking that assessment on the front end of how you've been spending will allow you to be very realistic. So I'll use a client example. I had a client who, their going out spend was around 650 a month. And so I had them do their assessment, and then I had them create their budget, and they came to me with their numbers, and they went and they brought their going out spend to 150 a month, right?
Mhm.
And in a very I guess would it be controversial or unexpected way,
Mhm.
I challenged my client to raise their going out budget. And some of you are probably like, why would she do that? Because going from 650 a month to 150 is not realistic.
Right.
It's
Right.
like this, and maybe for some people are like they do things, they cut things cold turkey. But my goal is to make your financial journey sustainable. So I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, let's bring it down to 550 a month, right? And let's see how we do. Again, it goes back to the mindset, because in the next month when I assessed it actually on a biweekly basis, but as she was assessing her money, she was like to say, "Oh, I reached that goal. I brought it down to 550." So now
Mhm.
in your brain, it changes something to say, "Oh, I can do it. If I reduced it to 550, though, next month I'm going to do 450."
Right.
But if you were to go from 650 to 150, and then you go assess your budget and you're like, "Oh, I spent 300." You're like, "Oh,
Mhm.
why am I even doing this? It's not even going to work." Right? Those limiting beliefs start to come in, and it'll start to sway you to move away from it. Right? So, a tip that I have, assess your spending, create a realistic budget, right? And make room for wins, because that's
Mm.
going to change your mindset.
Right.
Another thing I will say around budgeting is align your banking strategy to it, right? So like make sure your savings is in a separate account.
Mhm.
Start to set up some automations if you need to really kind of break up your money in a way that flows and makes sense. So
Yeah.
maybe this means having two checking accounts, right? One checking account for all your income and bills, and a separate checking account for money to spend, eating out and more social, right? Because now you can actually see when you open the app, you can see, okay, this bank account only has X dollars left. So that could kind of be a resource for you to help as well. Let me think some other tips around budgeting is also using your budget as a strategic plan, right?
Mhm.
It's a yes plan to me, right? Your budget allows you to say yes to more things. You want to go on vacation? Well, budget for the vacation.
Right.
Make adjustments. But I want to say, like, when we think about budgeting, we always think about what we have to give up, but not what we can gain. So you can only reduce your budget so much. Like, we need to eat. We need to have a life. Like,
Mhm.
I believe I'm a believer in that. I know some people that have budget and they're willing to not have a life, and that's okay. But for me, I
Yeah.
needed that balance. So what did that mean? Well, I need to increase my income, right? Increasing your income is limitless. Cutting your
Mhm.
expenses is limited. Like if you have rent, you still need to pay your rent. You can't just tell your landlord like, well, this month I'm
For real.
gonna pay $1,000, you know?
Yeah.
So use that as a way to say, well, how else can I increase the other side, right? So just remember that you have those two options there.
Even and I tell people, even if you are a bougie person, that's okay. But
Right.
you could be bougie on a budget, like somebody has said in an
Right.
interview.
Or bougie with a plan. You can be
Oh
bougie
yeah,
with a plan. Like me, I like getting my nails done. You see my nails. Shout out to V Dedum on Instagram. But there was a time where I was like, well, I really want to work out. So I had to not do my nails like this. I still got my nails done, but not like this.
yeah,
Because I paid for a trainer. So I had to make a
exactly.
quick adjustment for the goal and the vision that I had in that moment and season of my life. Also,
Right.
another tip is don't change your budget all the time, but I would say every 3 months, every quarter, take a look through your budget and then ask yourself, is it the budget, right? Like maybe you made it too restrictive, you weren't monitoring it, you weren't checking it, or is it me? Because sometimes we make our budgets and then we don't follow them.
Right. Yeah.
So ask
Yeah.
yourself those two questions when it comes to your budget.
That's good stuff. So, like me personally, and if anyone, maybe this can help anyone too. When we go to grocery shopping, you know, you know what you're gonna buy, but most people they come out with more stuff that they didn't plan to buy, especially Target, right?
Yeah,
Um,
it's always $200. I don't know why.
like for me, my wife and I, right? I shop. I go to grocery shopping every 2 weeks, so 2 times a month.
Mhm.
And what I started doing early on, and then I stopped because I started realizing that okay, I think I'm very good at it. I don't need to do it, but I continue it again now. So what I do is we have a certain amount of grocery shopping that we're gonna spend for the month.
Yeah.
What I do is I go to the bank every 2 weeks or to the ATM, and I take out a certain amount, which is half of whatever the whole month is. My
Mhm.
goal is let's just say $600, throwing out a number for the month. But the first 2 weeks is $300. I take out $300, and that's how much I'm gonna spend, or I don't have to spend all of it for groceries for those two
Yeah.
weeks, right? If I spend $300, that's it. I'm not going to the bank to get more money because the other $300 is for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But thankfully, in the past 3 years, maybe one time that I can think of, if anything, not at all, we never went over that amount. And we started doing that again in January where I take out cash and I
Mhm.
have it on an envelope. That's just me, right? And I calculate every item that I get, right? Just to make sure I'm on point. And no lie, Aitza, every time I go grocery shopping, I have money left over. And I throw that to my debt, or I throw that to a nice
Mhm.
dinner with my wife,
Yeah.
or whatever I wanted to use it for. Right? Maybe that could be a tip for somebody who feel like they overspend in groceries so many times. Oh, but I have 2 kids. Like I spend $1,000 a month. I'm like, I don't have 2 kids yet, but I can guarantee you that you could spend less than that. You just think that
Yeah.
because you have 2 kids and you have to spend that much money. So I just wanted to throw
Yeah.
that away. So it
And it's
helps.
all about creating like safety nets for yourself. So, and a quick plug and pause here. So if you need someone to help you with your budget, send me a DM. We could talk about that. And I also partner with a digital budgeting platform that does kind of that cash
Mhm.
envelope method, but in an app format. So for those of you who
Nice.
are like, I don't want to walk around with cash, let me know about that. There's a free 35-day free trial on that. And then it's about $15 a month or $99 for the year. So let me know, and actually it's a digital coach tool. So it's a digital me that walks you through that app and shows you exactly how to set it up, exactly how to link your bank accounts. And then I'll be there for some budgeting questions as well. So that's not specifically my coaching, but it's really if you're just here for the budget. But going back to what you said, and I love that you figured out what works for you. Your budget is not going to look like your friend's budget, right? You might have to do a different approach than somebody else, and vice versa. So it's not all the same. Maybe your budget looks one way now, but now you had a major life change and it has to change. It has to shift, right? It's a living thing. It's not like set in stone. And if you don't do it, you make a mistake, you're a horrible person. Like, give yourself grace. Like, you're unlearning things and behaviors and habits that you have been practicing for however long you've been alive. So it's going to take those times and those adjustments. One thing that I recently did is for my grocery spend, I'm starting to meal prep. So if you're meal prepping, that is very easy because now you know exactly what to buy. But I know myself, and there's some times where I'm like, I don't want to cook. And I only meal prep. So what do we turn to? We turn to apps like Uber Eats, Grubhub, these delivery apps, and the fees are crazy on those apps, especially in Miami. I don't know if I think it's everywhere. But you go buy something that's $15, and then you get to the end, and it's like $55 delivery, and you save, and you get $2 off your delivery fee. I'm like, how to go from $15 to $55? So what I did when I went to Trader Joe's, I picked up some frozen pasta. I picked up a frozen pizza. I picked up like a few things because I know I'm like, there are some days I don't want to cook, and instead of turning to these like delivery things and spending a ridiculous amount of money, let me just get ahead of it. And I think as you're beginning your financial journey, if you're an entrepreneur, I'm trying to navigate your finances, think about how to get ahead of it. And that way you're not coming from a reactive place and you're kind of frantic and scrambling. Because then again, remember, you're a wheel. So that starts to impact other areas of your life. But if you already know you have these little quirks or these little things, how can you build in a plan in your financial journey to make it sustainable, to make it kind of flow in a way that works for you? And then you could adjust that little by little. So that was a great example you gave. And that's something that I recently started doing is like, hey, I'm going to go ahead and buy these frozen pastas and some pizza and some things I could just heat up real quick for the days that I'm like, I don't want to cook and I don't want to overspend.
I feel that. Look at my wife.
Yeah.
My wife said exactly. Being pregnant with a toddler, I'm so tired. I don't want to cook. By the time I can, it's 9 p.m. LOL.
Right. Like, and so you got to build some plans around it. And like, that's okay. That's okay.
Reality. Two things I'll mention before going on to the next question. One reason, he's a free reason I'm going to throw out because I know I have it in some of my videos. One reason why a lot of people don't budget or want to budget, and I've heard it, is because then it's going to take away of my freedom of what I want to spend. But here's the problem that I tell them. I'm like, that may be true, but then all the freedom that you're using to spend money is getting you into debt. So in reality, you have no freedom. You're just locking yourself in debt now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like, people look at budgeting as like restrictive. Like, what do I have to give up? But I invite all of you watching this, whether here live or on the replay, like, let's reframe the question and say, what do I have to gain? Right. Maybe your current self right now has to live a little limited, but like, if you go back to your vision, I will challenge all of you watching this. I doubt that your vision is, well, I want to be able to go to Paris today. Your vision is probably like, I want to be able to live in Paris in 10 years. I want to have a family of 5 and go on vacation for 4 weeks at a time, right? If that's the life you're trying to live, you have to plan for that right now. Like, this is where you do that work. This is where you have that time to work together. If you're with a partner, like, have those conversations to make sure you're both aligned on the same goal and start planning for it, right? You mentioned Ally Bank earlier. I like Ally Bank because it has buckets. So when I'm all about efficiency, like, I'm going to work smarter, not harder, and I'm going to be efficient. So I have different buckets in my Ally account, and buckets are just basically different savings categories within your one account. Because we look at our accounts, we have like this one big number, but how can we break it up to meet our goals? Right. So you can start creating sinking funds and building that out into your savings plan. And I also, my savings buckets are affirmation, like not affirming based, but they're more speaking life into myself. So instead of just travel fund, it's I'm a world traveler. Like, I named it that, right? So when I read it, I'm also speaking this life into myself. But you can set an automation. So whenever money goes into that account, it automatically gets moved into my different categories based on the percentages that I've set up. So it's all about really realizing that your budget is a yes plan. Like you're going to be able to say yes to more things. You're going to be able to go on the trip and pay down your debt, right?
Mhm.
Might take a bit longer to go on that trip, but you can do both as long
Right.
as you plan for it. And again, it's like shifting that limiting belief that we have. And remember that people that have money, like very wealthy people, they know where their money is. They know what
Exactly.
bank it's in. They know
Yeah.
who's managing it. Like
Mhm.
they know because
Right.
this has already been built into their mind. So you can do it too.
Yeah. And a reality that I want to bring, just because we budget, or at least for me, that doesn't mean every month or whatever how you do it is perfect.
Yeah.
Because even though I have a budget, this is what we're spending this month. There are days that I'm just craving chips because I love salty stuff, or
Right.
bread or candy, and I just spend it. Now I'm not going in debt for it. I'm not like crazy spending $100, $200 on those things, but I tend to buy little things here and there, and that's not affecting me. So we
Yeah.
need, like you said, we don't need to go crazy and be hard on ourselves in that area. You know what I'm saying? So that is a good point. So going to the next question, without going too deep, when it comes to taxes, we're in tax season. Everybody loves or hates taxes. People say, "Oh yes, I got $3,000." Okay, cool, but that's money that the government took from you to begin with. So something is just an extra bonus money that you're getting. So
Mhm.
just be wise with it. What are some do's and don'ts when filing taxes?
So for taxes, I'm not gonna speak too much in that because I specialize in financial statements and reporting. But if you need a specialist on taxes, I'll bunt to my friend Saint, capitalized black, let her know I sent you.
Hmm.
But when it comes to your taxes, you mentioned one thing I hear people say like, "Oh, I want a big refund." But it's not about getting a big refund. If you want a big refund, that means you don't want to make money because people that make a lot of money pay a lot in taxes. But
Right.
it is about having a tax plan.
Or have
Um, or have kids, right? But it's about having a tax plan and a strategy for how you're going to, if you're working 9 to 5, like how do you need to have that set up? What type of retirement accounts or other types of avenues you can take to
hmm
reduce your tax liability to as close to zero as possible. And if you do owe money, to make sure that you're setting money aside so that that bill is not so heavy at the end of the year, right? So for my entrepreneurs, that means implement the profit first method. That's something that I implemented and it's completely changed my business. And that's something I'm going to help the people that I'm coaching to do as well. But it's saying every time you get a sale or make revenue, set money aside for taxes, set money aside for paying yourself, set money aside for your operating expenses, right? You want to create a plan. And just make sure, hire a tax accountant. If you don't know how to do taxes, you don't feel comfortable, like hire someone who specializes in taxation to help you get there. And I guess one do and a tip for taxes is make sure you know what is in your tax return, even if you hire a tax expert.
hmm
Sometimes I've met people who like they get this huge refund. They're like so amazed by it, and then we look and it's because the person put that they had a business.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
happened and they didn't know, and that person did not have a business. So
Right.
just make sure that you understand what it is you're putting in your tax return, or what has been put in. And if you have any questions, hire a tax expert. And it doesn't have to be just around tax season. If you're a high income earner, I highly suggest that you hit up my friend Saint at
Mhm.
Capitalized Black and you start making a plan for your strategy before a year before tax season so that you can start to build wealth in that way and be more strategic when it comes to your taxes.
Right, awesome. And one thing I'll say before we go to the next question is, like, for those that are Uber and Lyft drivers, like myself, I know it's complicated because there's a lot of tax write-offs, right? Very important. I'm talking about from car maintenance, gas,
Mhm.
to a cell phone accessories or a cell phone plan, monthly plan, car insurance, all that kind of stuff are tax write-offs. I know that it is a little annoying that you have to go into your account at the end of the year and to search everything, and it's a lot of work. And when I have to do it, it's like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do it. But let me tell you, when I do it, at the end, I give it to the lady or the person that's my. It's just a relief because I'm like, if it wasn't for this, it would have destroyed me. So all these tax write-offs is very, very important. Another thing that came to my mind now that I'm gonna start doing, even though I'm a little late, 3 months in, but it's all right. Instead of waiting the whole year to
Mhm.
find out how much I paid in gas, how much in this, I'm doing it every month. That way, by the time that the year ends or whatever, I just calculate, instead of going through all of the 12 months. So that's
Yeah.
very cool.
Or you can do it easier and hire me to be your bookkeeper.
There
No,
you
but
go.
listen, no, but honestly, those are true, and not just if you're a driver, but also if you're a business owner, you do have some tax
Mhm.
deductions. If you're a business owner who works from home, so for example, a lot of the work that I do is virtual, so I'm usually in this space. You can actually prorate some of your bills for your
Mm,
business. So, for example, you have an office space. When I say prorate, you take the square footage that you're using for your business within your home, you divide it by the total square footage of the space, and
mm,
that percentage that you get, you can use to deduct things like your internet or your light or your rent. So you
mm,
can do that as well. Again, make sure that you're not doing 100% because you also live there
right.
in corporation, but a tax expert can help you with that. And if you're an entrepreneur, set up a bookkeeping system, right? You don't have to wait until the end of the year to do that
Right.
because you have a bookkeeper or someone in there that's organizing it for you
Yeah.
on a monthly basis. And that way you can see those reports kind of ahead of time and create the proper plans for that.
I need to look into that because
And
I'm
be
telling
mindful of, like what you hear on the internet.
I'm telling you, because at the end of the year, when I have to go through all of that, month
It's
by it's annoying, calculate, and then sometimes I put the wrong number and everything goes to zero. I'm like, no, oh, I can't.
Yeah.
It's
Do it monthly. You do it monthly. And if you
yeah.
don't have a lot of transactions, like you can use a spreadsheet. But
Mhm.
again, it's like same thing with budgeting. Like if you break it down, so instead of waiting the 12 months, you break it down to every month or maybe bi-weekly. It's gonna take this big, like heavy burden that you have at the end of the year and it's gonna really lighten your load.
Yeah.
Similar to saving, I think you mentioned the credit cards and the holidays. Like
Hmm.
if you know how much you spend on Christmas every year,
Right.
then you can plan for it all year long. To say,
Exactly.
okay, I always spend $500 on Christmas. Maybe for some people it's 1,000. What does that look like every paycheck or for every client sale? Like, how much money do you need to set aside for Christmas? And
Yeah. And then,
don't do it December. Yeah, don't do 12 months. I would say, well, I guess you could do. I would do like 8 months, right? Or like bring it to how much do you need to have by October
mhm,
to buy Christmas gifts.
right.
So like another thing about like if you break things down, the burden won't be so heavy.
Right. And or you can just go to Ally, get Ally Banking, and you have those buckets, and you have one bucket for Christmas, and boom, you just put money in there. Don't touch it until that time comes.
Right. And a little hack too, make a little bucket for yourself, your annual birthday gift.
No,
So that
there
you
you
don't
go.
forget about yourself, on your birthday.
Right. Awesome. Awesome. So we have one. Well, actually, we have two more questions only because you mentioned books, and I want to know what kind of books you recommend. But before that question, um, shifting it, what are your thoughts on student loan industry? I believe as a whole, it's a scam. Not school is not a scam. Going to
Mhm.
college is not a scam, but the way they, yeah, it's a scam. The student loan industry as a whole, for me, is a scam. It robs so many people. What do you think?
Yeah, as someone who still has student loans, I think that deciding to go to school is an investment for yourself. So, for example, I tell people I'm debt free because I'm credit card consumer debt free, except for my student loans, just because I view my student loans as an investment and not necessarily like this debt that I put on. That's my personal opinion. But I do think that they are taking advantage of people um, to get higher education. I wish higher education could be free, but again, it's all a business at the end of the day, and they're trying to make their money too. And so sometimes people are like, oh, it should be free, but then it's like,
Mm,
what are the tax inputs? Like somebody's going to pay for it. Like somebody has to pay those teachers. How is that really going to work?
mm-hmm,
So but I think they could do something better. I think like maybe they charge a very like flat interest rate or they charge something very low. Like it has to be reasonable. Like there's people that right now owe so much they owe more student loan debt than what they had when they graduated school.
that's
Like for
true.
me, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that they can kind of work it out in a way, but also financial literacy, right? If we start to encourage financial literacy throughout, our generations and generations and keep passing it on, then
Mm-hmm,
as parents, like we could start setting up monies aside for our kids. We could start investing. We could start putting money away so that it's earning money. So by the time they turn 18, again, right, breaking down the big thing and making it small. Like from the moment, like you're pregnant, like you could start making a plan and start setting up money aside that's going to grow compound growth over the 18 years of their life. So when they start decide that they want to go to college, if they want to pursue college, because I know that now people are pursuing different routes for their futures,
mm-hmm.
instead of saying I have $0, maybe now you have $20,000, right? And I think that's how like financial literacy comes and like plays a role around the whole thing. Um, yeah. I'm still waiting for my student loan forgiveness. That
Well, you
got
know
me.
what's funny though?
Listen, I would have owed $500 if it went through. I would have owed
My,
$500.
my wife's friend, I'm not gonna say the name, but my wife's friend hit her up just to last week that the student she had 70,000 some 70 something thousand student loan and it was wiped. I'm
Lord.
like, girl, why? Can I be that one? Even though we only have 12, but dang, can you
Yeah.
know $70,000 and now you're done with that? Wow.
Yeah. Well, I think if you have 12, it's supposed to be wiped out. Something came out
Yeah,
recently. So I would
yeah,
check on that.
yeah.
If it's held by the federal government. But yeah, I would have I would have owed $500.
For real.
Yeah, but people have to go sue and block our blessings. But it's okay. I know it's gonna work itself out at the end of the day. But that's really my view. And I think now it's tough too, because I think, I'm a millennial. When we went to school, I don't necessarily think we needed a master's, depending on the career you chose to get to where you wanted to go. But now, because it's so competitive, it's like you can't just have a bachelor's degree. Like, you need a master's degree. So I do think they need to figure something out with that to make it a bit more reasonable and to, provide more education. You have 18-year-olds signing like $100,000 of debt. Like, it's not making sense, especially for the type of job. Like the math ain't math in here. Like, I'm paying 100,000, but the industry that I'm going, the salary is 50,000 or 75. Like, it just doesn't make sense. So that's my view on student loan industry.
So last question before we go into the fun bonus question that lightning round question.
Okay.
So you mentioned certain books. What are some books that you like to read or recommend as far as when it comes to money and all that stuff? I know you may not know all of them from the top of your head, but give the one that you remember.
Yeah. So for personal finance, I would definitely say I Will Teach You to Be Rich.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a new version, so make sure you're getting the most up-to-date version. Mm-hmm. And then The Richest Man in Babylon. It's a bit of a hard read because it's using Old English, but I think it really sets you to understand the principles around money. And then I'm actually going to start reading What Would the Rockefellers Do, because I want to learn about their whole trust, family trust situation. So those are some personal finance side. On the entrepreneur side, I definitely would recommend to read Expert Secrets. That's a good book. I mentioned Clockwork earlier. So read Clockwork. It's all about clockworking your business so that you don't have to be in the business, but you can be on the outside of your own business, kind of on the creative end. And then read Profit First. So those are for my entrepreneurs out there.
Awesome. All right, I'm loving this. I can go for 3 more hours, but we're not going to do that.
I can't believe it's been over an hour. I'm like, oh, okay, wow.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you about, 7 or 8 questions. These are would you rather questions.
Okay.
And they're based on money. So this also is fun, right? And also to get to know you a little bit more, where this and that. And for those that are still watching, answer yourself these questions as well. All right. So the first one is, and you have 10 seconds to answer.
10 seconds?
Yes, 10 seconds.
We have a timer on the clock. Okay, go.
All right. Would you rather win the lottery but lose all of your friends, or lose all of your money but find your soulmate?
Lose all my money and find my soulmate.
Okay. All right. Cool. No explanation needed. Just quick answer. Awesome. Number 2. Would you rather get $1 million right now or $100,000 a year for 10 years?
$1 million right now.
Okay. Awesome. Number 3. Would you rather go back in time to fix your biggest money mistakes or look into your future to find out where you will end up?
Back in time to fix my money mistakes.
Would you rather make an extra $100 a day or gain an extra hour to each day?
Makes an extra $100 a day.
Would you rather win a fully paid luxury vacation or be given $7,000 to plan your dream vacation?
Say that again.
Would you rather win a fully paid luxury vacation or be given $7,000 to plan your dream vacation?
Given $7,000 to plan my dream vacation.
Okay. 3 more. Each month, would you rather have your bank account balance plastered on a billboard, or only be able to withdraw money in front of a crowd.
Withdraw in front of a crowd?
Like you're at the ATM, and every time you draw money from the ATM, you're always gonna have a crowd of people watching. So it's either having
I'm trying
your
to understand.
say it again.
I'm trying to understand the options.
Yeah, I'm
So
gonna say it
having a
again.
billboard, I
I'm
guess
gonna
I
say
can
it.
like
So
having a billboard
having
on
your
my
account
account.
balance, having your account balance on a billboard where everybody can see it everywhere they go, or being able to take out money from your ATM while having a bunch of people around you looking.
They see my PIN number. I guess I will take the crowd
No,
of
they
people.
don't see your PIN number. They just seen you cashing out money.
I mean, yeah, they can see me cash out money.
Okay. All right. Two more. Would you rather trade places with a celebrity for one day or win the lottery?
Win the lottery.
And the last one. This is a very personal one for me. Would you rather adopt a child or give money to foster care systems?
Adopt a child.
Awesome. Awesome. See, that was not that hard.
Yeah. The one with the billboard and the ATM, I'm like, well, I'm confused. Sometimes.
Like I had to think about that too when I saw that, but I don't know because there's pros and cons. Like everybody's gonna know how much money I have by looking at the billboard, but then in the ATM, they're not gonna know how much money I have. But I have a whole bunch of people watching me take out money out of my ATM. Like they're gonna
Right.
jump, right? So it's
I
like,
know.
anyways. But that was it. That was all the discussion and questions. I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation, enjoyed the knowledge and everything that you have to offer. For those that are watching or will watch, I appreciate you guys coming in. This is her website, right? Strategiesandtea.com. You can, if you want to get more information, just shoot her a DM as well, or just go to the website and see what she's about. Me personally, even though like I said earlier, I met her recently, but I believe in what she's doing. So I am actually joining her community and want to get more information because I'm not a one man show and I don't know everything. I know some things from experience over the years, but I'm here to learn as well. And I
Yeah.
believe that you guys can get something out of it too, because we all need it, right? We all need financial literacy to some degree. So I
Yeah.
appreciate you, Aitza, for coming on, taking your time. So is there any final words you want to share before we hop off?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, thank you again for having me here on your platform and inviting me into your community space online. I want to share that if you're watching this replay or you watch this live, you'll see that I threw out a lot of names, right? As you move into entrepreneurship or whatever you do, realize that there's enough at the table for all of us to eat. And we know what we know and what we don't know, it's okay. But how can we leverage our community and uplift the people in our community as well? So go ahead and support and follow all the people that I mentioned. Make sure you're following Emmanuel's channel because we can all move forward together, right? And that's a mindset shift that you need to have and realize that just because someone has something, it doesn't mean that you're gonna have less. Like we all have enough. There's more than enough for us to receive. There's more than enough people for us to serve. Figure out what your vision is and continue to move towards that. Make sure you support. If you liked what I said and you liked everything I shared, go support me on Strategies and Tea and send me a DM. I might have something special for you. Send me a DM and let me know that you watched this YouTube video. And if you're ready to take that step forward in your financial wealth, whether you're an entrepreneur or an individual, let me know and let's figure out how we can work together, whether it's through coaching or through joining my online community.
Right. And in short, with everything what she's trying to say, that there is no competition. She's not a
Right.
one-woman show, even though she has her own business. But that's why she's mentioning other people, because not everybody's gonna gravitate to you, or not everybody's gonna gravitate to such and such. We all working as a team, uplifting each other up. So that's pretty much the end of it. Appreciate you. Don't go yet, but everybody else, please share the stream and looking forward to more interviews with different people. Happy Saturday. Stay warm because it's raining out here all day in South Florida.
Stay
And
dry.
enjoy, peoples.